Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Culture Coach. So today I'm going to be talking about why understanding cognitive bias is essential to building an effective business culture. So in today's pretty much fast-paced and sometimes complex business world, organizations that forge the path ahead, those that deliver the unbelievable growth, are those that are constantly striving to make sound decisions and foster innovation, and those that create a culture where everyone in it feels included in the journey. No, I didn't say everyone in the world, I said everyone in that culture feels included. A crucial but often overlooked factor in achieving those kind of goals is understanding and addressing cognitive biases. So cognitive biases are essentially systematic patterns of deviation from rationality and judgment, which can significantly impact decision-making processes and overall business culture. Essentially, they exist as the mind's shortcuts to save time and energy on thinking, because the human brain has evolved to be an energy-saving device. Now, that's because thinking uses calories. Yes, you heard me right. That's why a hard day at the office leaves you feeling as drained as much as physical exercise does. Your brain has evolved over hundreds of thousands of years, when food was often scarce, to avoid unnecessary energy usage. So it wants to avoid that calorie loss, so it has a number of very efficient ways to do that. Yet in the critical areas of innovation, planning and development, they are going to lead you astray. So, by recognizing and mitigating these biases, businesses can build a more effective, fair, and dynamic culture. Let's start off with what is cognitive bias. So, cognitive biases, as I said, were mental shortcuts or heuristics that the human brain uses to simplify information processing. Now, while these shortcuts can be helpful in making quick decisions on unimportant day-to-day tasks, they often lead to errors and irrational judgments in more complex areas, which is not what you want when you're making decisions that impact the future of your life, your business, your health, or anything else that's important. There are many types of cognitive biases. Some of the more common ones include confirmation bias, the tendency to search for, interpret and remember information in a way that confirms your preconceptions and beliefs of what is already true. This is people choosing to find only the evidence that supports what they want, the truth, and ignoring evidence that's contrary to that, to flat earthers, for example. Anchoring bias, the reliance on the first piece of information encountered, the anchor in inverted commas, when making decisions. This is the brain, again, trying to save energy. You have one piece of evidence, that's surely enough. And yet every single worthwhile journalist still wants at least two sources of proof before they'll go to print. Availability heuristic as a bias. That's overestimating the importance of information that is, easiest to get hold of, the most available and most recent. Again, why go looking for new information if you already have some from an energy saving point of view? This is a little bit like it ain't broke, don't try to fix it, but is actually it ain't broke, don't try to waste any energy trying to improve or maintain it. Then there's groupthink. Groupthink is the desire for harmony or conformity in a group. It results in irrational or dysfunctional decision-making often. This is where an individual starts to care more about not offending the group than they do about making things right or making things better. It's just easier to go along with this approach. And yet every great breakthrough or success has been based on the complete opposite approach. So how does cognitive bias impact business culture? Well, let's look at decision making. Cognitive biases can severely impair decision making processes within an organization. When leaders and employees rely on biased thinking, they are more likely to make flawed decisions that can lead to negative outcomes. For example, confirmation bias might cause a manager to favour only the data that supports their existing strategy while disregarding evidence that a different approach would be more effective, as not only is it easier to just go with what they've already got, but it stops them being wrong at the same time. And this will lead to missed opportunities and the adherence to ineffective strategies long after it could have been changed. So what about innovation? Innovation thrives in environments where diverse perspectives are encouraged and valued. Yet cognitive biases like groupthink will stifle creativity and limit the range and number of ideas that you can get. When team members or groups are hesitant to challenge each other's prevailing opinions or propose novel solutions. Now, whether that's due to fear of conflict or criticism, the organisation, your business, loses out on potential breakthroughs and solutions, and so does the whole industry. What about diversity and inclusion? Building a diverse and inclusive workplace is essential for fostering creativity and ensuring fair treatment of all employees. And cognitive biases such as implicit bias and stereotyping can undermine these efforts by influencing hiring decisions, performance evaluations and promotions. For instance, anchoring bias will be in effect if the recruiter is not aware of it, will cause them to place undue weight on a candidate's first impression rather than the candidate's overall qualifications, their values, their potential and their fit with the culture. So, what do we do about it? Well, we can start with awareness and education. If you want better people, then you should train them. You should develop them. You should help them become better. And they will, I promise you, achieve more. You need to do the same with yourself. So you need to train your people by implementing regular sessions to educate both yourself and your employees about the biases that they might be having in place, the effects of those biases and the ways to counteract them. Because understanding the existence of and the impact of biases is the first step in mitigating. You should encourage self-reflection, and mindfulness practices are helpful. When individuals are more aware of their thought process, how they think and how they go about it, then they're better equipped to identify and counteract those biases. You should promote a culture of people from diverse backgrounds and form teams with members from different backgrounds, educations, experiences, with different perspectives. Coming across organisations where they expect everyone should have a degree because they've got one is a bias. True diversity is not always about gender or colour, but about people from different backgrounds, with different educations, with different experiences. And all of that reduces the risk of groupthink while promoting a broader range of ideas and solutions. I mean, while you're at it, creating an inclusive environment where all voices are heard and valued. And that's what inclusivity really means. It's about where everyone's voice is heard and valued. It doesn't mean that we have to abide by what everybody thinks. It's not pandering to groupthink. It's truly valuing the contribution. It does not mean you have to accept those biases. So you encourage open discussions and the sharing of different viewpoints to challenge prevailing assumptions. You can also create structured decision-making processes. So if you use checklists and decision-making frameworks to ensure comprehensive evaluation of options, structured approaches can reduce reliance on intuition and subjective judgment. If you assign someone the role of devil's advocate in meetings, and that job is to question assumptions and present alternative perspectives, no matter what they agree, helping to uncover potential biases in the decision-making process. I mean, this is a role I play with a lot of clients, is the one of devil's advocate, just to see how well thought through an idea is. You can look at data-driven decision making. Encourage decisions based on data and empirical evidence, and force yourself to look at that evidence and data rather than relying on intuition, what you think is right. Data-driven approaches help to ensure that your choices are grounded in reality rather than just influenced by your own or the group's biases. You should implement regular reviews of decisions and outcomes to learn from past experiences. Analyzing what worked and what didn't can help you to identify patterns of biased thinking and improve future decision making within your organization. You should consider creating feedback loops. If you foster a culture of constructive feedback where employees feel comfortable giving and receiving critiques, I use the word comfortable, they accept giving and receiving critiques, because constructive feedback helps people recognize and correct biased thinking. You should use feedback to drive continuous improvement in processes and decision making. Regularly reassess your strategies and make whatever necessary adjustments you need. That will all keep biases in check. You can also encourage mindfulness and critical thinking. If you offer mindfulness training to help employees become more aware of their cognitive processes, essentially that means how they think and how they process information, you can reduce automatic biased reactions and promote more thoughtful decision making. And you should incorporate, or at least consider incorporating, critical thinking exercises into regular meetings and training sessions. Encouraging critical analysis and questioning of the current approach to doing business and whatever it is you're working on can help teams and individuals overcome the biases that they've got in place and make much more rational decisions. There are technology solutions you can use. There's technology you can use to dictate and mitigate bias in areas like hiring and performance evaluation. There's software tools that can analyze language and patterns of language to identify people's potential biases that human evaluators, your ears, might miss. You can also implement decision support systems that provide data-driven recommendations. These systems can help reduce the influence of individual biases by offering objective insights based on historical data and trends. So, how can we use this information to change our culture? Well, first of all, it's a good idea to start off by assessing your current culture. Before you even start thinking about initiating any change in your culture, it's essential to understand, well, what is the culture that you've got? You can do this through conducting surveys and having focus groups to gather insights into employees' perceptions and experiences, identify the strengths and weaknesses of existing culture and understand specific areas that need change. You can do 360-degree feedback sessions. Essentially, you can ask people. What else? You can define the desired culture. What is the culture that you want? What is the culture that you think you need? Can you articulate, I couldn't even say the word then. Can you articulate the desired culture? And does that align with your vision of the future? Do you have a vision, a mission? Do you have strategic goals? Do you have core values and behaviors that you would expect to see from your people? A culture is essentially, this is how we do business. And that's about core values and behaviors. That's about what we're trying to achieve and how we're trying to achieve it. What are the attitudes, your people's attitudes? What are the attitudes that you would like to see in your culture? What are those, how do your people embody that? And this should be communicated in a way that's inspiring, easy to understand for everybody in the business. Like I say, essentially, you should be saying, this is how we do business here. If you haven't said it, the business will be however it is already. You need to make sure that you've got leadership support. So if it's not just you, then you need to have support for that from your leadership so that you can make sure that everybody's on board. So that successful culture change requires strong support and commitment from whatever top leadership you've got. The leaders within the business must model the desired behaviours and be champions of the change process. Their commitment um, signals to the rest of the organisation that culture change is a priority. And this can be you, and it can be your top team, depends on how your business is structured. Next, you should develop a plan. It's always good to have a plan. So create a plan that outlines the steps and strategies for implementing the culture change. So you need to include things like clear communication on what the culture is going to be, what the goals are, the benefits of the culture that you want for all employees. And that's for the employees. What is the culture benefits for them? Why would they want to act like this? You need to have regular updates and make sure your communication is transparent. Make sure that you're being open with people. Don't try and hide things. You provide training and development programs. It shocks me how few businesses actually train their people. But do that so that they can adopt new values and behaviours. And leadership training, workshops, team building activities. And make sure you're empowering the change agents within your organisation who can advocate the support and change culture at various levels. So make sure that you're reinforcing that this is the way that we do business, and when people do it, this is good. After that, you can start to align your organisational systems and processes. So you can make sure that they support the desired culture that you want. So things like HR practices, recruitment, onboarding, performance management, and your reward systems that are all aligned with your new culture. You need to make sure that you hire and promote individuals who embody the desired behaviours. When you're employing new people, make sure they match your culture, not that they just happen to be able to do the job. Policies and procedures can be updated. Review and revise policies and procedures to support the new culture. Ensure that they encourage and reinforce those desired behaviours again, and that they support those values. You should also create an environment, a work environment that supports the new culture. So you might have to consider redesigning workspaces, implementing collaborative tools, digital working, promote flexible work arrangements, whatever it is that's right for your culture. And that's what it has to be. You don't have to do it all. You have to do the things that support your culture. And then you should constantly monitor and measure progress. You use surveys and feedbacks and performance metrics, like right at the beginning, to assess how well your new culture is being adopted and its impact on organisational performance. And be very open to making adjustments based on feedback and the changing circumstances. Don't get so pigeonholed into an idea is right. And then make sure that you reinforce and sustain the change. Culture change is an ongoing process. It's constantly developing over time, and it requires continuous reinforcement. You should be celebrating successes and recognising individuals and teams who exemplify your desired culture. Continuously communicate the importance of your culture and keep it at the forefront of everything that you do. A few things to bear in mind. Implementing culture change is challenging. You will get resistance from employees. There are going to be ingrained habits, and there will be complex and changing. There will be complexity in changing what is the expected norm, the expected way of doing business. So a few things to consider. Address resistance by involving people, not by dictating to them or forcing them into the change process. Listen to their concerns, provide support and resources to them. Ensure that you're consistent in your messaging and your actions. The minute you're inconsistent, it's going to undermine your credibility and undermine the change in the culture that you want. And culture change takes time. Be patient and persistent, recognizing that it might take months or years to fully embed a new culture. And then it needs to be maintained all the time. It's a never-ending, ongoing thing that needs to be maintained. Implementing culture change in any organisation is challenging, but if you don't have the culture that you want, it's an essential thing that you've got to do if you want to achieve long-term success. If you need to address your current culture, define your desired culture and gain leadership support, develop a plan, align organisational systems, monitor progress and reinforce the change. By doing that, you can create a culture that drives your performance, your innovation and your employee engagement. You can make it a fantastic place to work if you do all of this, and you can get fantastic results from really great people. You are going to need commitment and perseverance if you're going to do it, but it can lead to a more successful organisation. And creating that kind of culture that mitigates cognitive bias is not just a one-time effort, but it's a continuous process. It requires awareness, education, critical thinking. And by implementing structured decision-making process and relying on data, by fostering a feedback-rich environment, if you like, and by promoting mindfulness, we can reduce the impact of those cognitive biases on our success. Ultimately, this leads to better decision-making, increased creativity, and a more inclusive and productive environment. Okay, so look, that's the end of today. Thank you so much for listening. You can, if you desire, create the business of your dreams. It's not easy and it's not simple, no matter what the Gary gurus out there tell you. It is, however, totally achievable if you put in the effort and you get the right information and advice. Hey, please, look, get in touch. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you would like to discuss your culture with me or how I can help you develop your culture, then please visit my website. That's waltergroup.co.uk. So WALTER group.co.uk. I've been Andy Walter, and this has been an episode of The Culture Coach.